Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Streggy, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did.
Okay, Dave, that's it. Screw you and your college flunkies. I've had enough of this from you and from everyone else. I know what you guys are trying to do. Break me down, drive me out of the force. Well, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a lame prank like this to get Curtis Mooney to throw in his badge, so fuck you. Over.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. My name is David Streggy, and I have another video collection video to record. And I ended up having a recorded interview with director Paul Bunnell. Thanks to my connection with Ottermole Moving Picture Company. He directed two short films, and this one is actually a feature, a small feature, called That Little Monster, and on here is his first 19-minute short film called The Visitant from 1981. And the interview is very interesting because he loves to do things in black and white, and I think these were very experimental. At the time, he was married. It says here he was the winner of the Golden Scroll Award for Astounding Achievement from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. And on the cover of That Little Monster it says, "Around these parts, the buffalo roam to an entirely different tune." So there is what the cover of this film looks like. So apparently Elite Entertainment is what put this film out. And yeah, I mean, we've got on the back here, this is what it says. Like the unforgettable horror films of the past, That Little Monster draws you into its world from frame one in a dead-on recreation of Edward Van Sloan's prologue to the 1931 Frankenstein. Sci-fi professor emeritus Forrest J. Ackerman steps before a curtain to forewarn us that the movie is not for the faint of heart. The screen blazes white and slowly refigures into two feminine hands in tight close-up, which pull away to reveal the face of a quite pretty young girl. Her name is Jamie, played by Melissa Baum. She's a foreign student awaiting an interview with the parents of an infant boy she hopes to babysit. Every day situation, to be sure. Ah, but nothing too is ordinary here. At once the house and its bizarre appointments begin to close in on Jamie, unsettling her and creepily unnerving us. The photography pays homage to the great horror films of the 1930s, a devilish, strange, disquieting little chiller that will cap your evening with some most delicious shudders. Some of its images may stay on your mind to become part of your film vocabulary. So, the film stars Melissa Baum, Reggie Bannister, Andy Wenning, and William Mills with Forrest J. Ackerman. And I believe that it also has none other than Bob Hope in here somewhere because he had. There's a story that he told me that he actually, in order to get Bob Hope to appear on his feature, he ended up having like a ton of memorabilia of Bob Hope, and he sold them. He walked into the Bob Hope family um, uh, place where he ran into Bob Hope's daughter, and they weren't going to let him in at first, but he had all this memorabilia, and he wanted to sell it back to him or whatnot, and he was able to fund his film, and this that little monster was um, supposed to go into and become part of that 80s monster anthology thing, but it never got there. The guy who was running the series ended up dying, and so Paul Bonnell ended up distributing it with another guy with Elite Entertainment, and that's how that film came to be. And The Visitant is an extra feature on here, which that's kind of a weird 80s film as well. So I definitely enjoyed both of those films, and he is forever in my mind as someone I enjoyed talking to. So, um, the next feature, this is number 31 out of 100. It's a limited edition of Ryan Mead's Creature Triple Feature. And it is signed, I believe, by Ryan Mead on the inside and by Tom Sullivan. And it's got 3 short films, and those 3 short films are called Cosmos Locos, Frankenstein's Fatal Flying Guillotine, and Bongfly. Um, and my favorite short film on this creature feature is Frankenstein's Fatal Flying Guillotine. That's a grindhouse style martial arts with Frankenstein, and it was something short of amazing. This one I have not watched yet, but I did buy it from Brad Twigg. It's called The Devil's Dolls. It stars Christopher Wheel, Kim Jackson, um, Kennedy Bryce, and it's on IFC's Midnight Collection. But it was also put out by Scream Factory, which is part of Shout Factory. Um, so the film was directed by Padraig Reynolds. Um, IFC Midnight and Somebody presents a think tank film, and a Yakima Productions picture, in association with North County Productions. Um, so, Serial Killer's Curse unleashes a season of slaughter in the backwoods of Mississippi. According to an ancient Guatemalan tradition, parents teach their children to soothe their fears by giving them handmade worry dolls um, just before bedtime. But when several of these talismans, which once belonged to a notorious mass murderer, find their way into the hands of unsuspecting residents of a small southern town, it sets off a grisly wave of bloodshed. The latest from Rites of Spring director Padraig Reynolds is a voodoo slasher shocker bursting with scarily inventive kills. So I have not watched this yet. Neither have I watched The Rites of Spring, but I do plan on watching them. This was a film that I had actually put money into. It is a limited edition of a Sleazebox and Gatorade film for Sean Donahue and Chris Woods. Um, Produced this, and Chris Woods directed it. It's called Chaos AD. I have not watched this film as of yet, but it's all kinds of signed. I'll bring it closer here. And I'll read the back here. On Halloween night, an abused housewife, played by Ashley Lynn Caputo, with a deadly secret and a horny politician, played by David A. Jackson, and a brother and sister, Lisa Marie Cart and Eric Danger Dion, with an abusive father, are all kidnapped or lured into a filthy, scummy lair by a group of vicious psychopaths, mostly made up of women, hell-bent on torturing and killing them. Led by the malicious bitch, Kate Phoenix, and her twisted girl toy vixen, Amanda Welch, played by Amanda Welch, along with the savaged Uncle Lester, played by Bob Glazier, the cannibalistic Lilith, Paula Surara, and the giantess Misery, Sahara Huxley. This murderous gang cages, rapes, degrades, tortures, and kills everything in their path. The Sleazebox, the studio that brought you American Holocaust and Death Escort Service, brings you another sick, demented, horrifying film that will shock you to the core. Welcome to Chaos AD. So I'm looking forward to watching this eventually. I know it's already been a couple of years now, but I invest myself in so many films. It's hard to catch up to all of them. So there we have it. Chaos AD. Here I have a 4-film collection of music related films. I have Rock of Ages, School of Rock, Detroit Rock City, and Empire Records. So one is directed by Adam Shankman, another by Richard Linklater, Adam Rifkin, and Alan Moyle. I believe I said those in the order that I've said them in, but that is a 4-film collection of those. And out of all of these, I would have to say Empire Records and School of Rock are 2 of my favorites on this collection. That being said, Camp Blood 5, which was produced by David Sterling, and it was directed by Dustin Ferguson. 3 months after the tragic death of her friends at Camp Blood, young Raven, Skylar Craig, played by Skylar Craig, attempts to rebuild a stable life. However, she is plagued by recurring nightmares and the haunting realization that there was someone else lurking in the woods that night. Could the real Camp Blood killer be back? Raven believes she must prove her sanity to herself and everyone else, so she teams up with 2 girlfriends to head back to Camp Blood and stop the killer once and for all by all means necessary. In the tradition of I Spit on Your Grave and MS-45 comes Camp Blood 5, the shocking sequel from cult director Dustin Ferguson, Camp Blood 4, and Demon Dolls. Um, so this was put together by Sterling Entertainment and 42nd Street Films, which I believe 42nd Street Films is Dustin Ferguson's, um, and it is signed by David Sterling up at the top there. I don't know if you can see it. Yep. Lately, whenever I buy his films, he's been signing them. So, yeah. There's the cover. All right. So, I ended up buying this next short film, and it has another short film on it as well. Um, so it's signed by the director, who is Rob Dimension, and this has Rabbit Hole, Boob Tube, M for Memoirs, and Don't Try This at Home, and it also has The Journey on on disc two. So this one's called Rabbit Hole, and it is in black and white. Um, Rabbit Hole is a twisted tale of a young mother, Dottie, who, upon waking, discovers her child is missing. For Dottie, the true nightmares happen when she isn't sleeping. Can she be saved? If so, for who or from who or what? May he have mercy on her soul. How far would you go down the rabbit hole? So the journey is probably the journey of 14-year-old amateur wrestler Kurt Robinson as he embarks on chasing his dream on becoming a professional wrestler. So You've Been Robbed Films, in association with Maniac Films, um, presents Rabbit Hole, a film by Rob Dimension, starring Megan Cunard, Rob Dimension, Kim Dimension, and Lexi Lebo. So Mike Mahoney is an executive producer on here, and so on and so forth. So I like that I have this 2 disc film, and it is pressed. So I do like that. Evidently, you could actually be can actually go to a website for the journey called curtisrobinsonpro.com. So, um, the next thing, this is so out of print right now. Um, this is the Blu-ray, DVD, and digital HD limited collector's edition of David Bowie in The Man Who Fell to Earth, directed by Nicholas Roeg. This is a 3 disc set with a 72-page booklet, and it looks like it's got like a ton of posters here. So I'm just going to pull this out real quick. There's the front of it, and there's the 72-page book. I haven't really touched it. This is the first time I've actually somewhat pulled it out. So evidently there is a poster that comes with this, and I'm just going to show this real quick. And this set came out like right after he died, so this is actually kind of cool. The poster that comes with The Man Who Fell to Earth. And then, let's see. These are photos. I don't know if you can see them somewhat. one's upside down. There we go. He was very thin, Mr. Bowie was. And one could never tell whether he was gay or straight, but was, in fact, married. But there is a rumor that supposedly he slept with Mick Jagger. And looks like this looks like one of the original posters of what was it? The film has got like cast, crew, technical synopsis. Very cool. I mean, look at this. I mean, it's a small little booklet, and then it's got like different things about what editorial, Rip Torn. Yep. So, now let me put this all back. Stick this in front of the, or behind the, or actually, I'll stick this behind that. I'll stick this in front of those, and then I will stick this now back into this thing. So I was definitely impressed with how much came with this particular set. I haven't really taken it out very much, but there it is, The Man Who Fell to Earth. And I started to watch it at one point in time, but I wanted to watch it with my fiance. So this is more of an obscure film that Johnny Depp was somewhat part of, and it's called The Man Who Cried. It was directed by Sally Potter. Written and directed by Sally Potter. It was a Universal Pictures and Studio Canal working title production in association with Adventure Pictures. So Christina Ricci, Kate Blanchett, John Turturro, and Johnny Depp star in this film. Today's most dazzling stars soar in this alluring tale of passion, intrigue, and betrayal. Set against a romantic Parisian backdrop, the lives of four strangers, an innocent young woman, and a dangerous secret, Christina Ricci, um, who was part of Sleepy Hollow. So this must have come out after Sleepy Hollow. Seductive cabaret dancer, Kate Blanchett, Oscar nominated for Elizabeth. A mysterious stranger, played by Johnny Depp, who played in Chocolat, and an unscrupulous operatic tenor, played by John Turturro, who played in Quiz Show, collide in one fateful evening when secrecy is a matter of survival. So I've seen this once. It was like a fairy tale of sorts because Johnny Depp was more like a haunting character. His character of the mysterious stranger who he played the man who cried. So interesting to say the least. The next film is called The Man on the Moon. And it is directed by Robert Mulligan. I think this is more of a family film. But here we go. Oscar nominees Sam Waterston and Tess Harper, and veteran actress Gail Strickland, played by Norma Ray, join three talented newcomers in this deeply moving film about coming of age and sexual discovery in rural 1950s Louisiana, brilliantly directed by Robert Mulligan, who directed To Kill a Mockingbird in the summer of '42. The Man in the Moon is a poignant and bittersweet tale Robert Ebert calls a wonderful movie, a victory, a meticulously prepared masterpiece. 14-year-old Dani, played by Reese Witherspoon, and her older sister Maureen, played by Emily Warfield, have always shared everything. But when Court Foster, played by Jason London, moves next door, and the sisters become rivals as Dani experiences her first feelings of affection, and Maureen finds the true love she's longed for. But with love comes heartache, and the sisters soon learn the a tough life lesson when tragedy strikes, and the strength of their bond is the only thing that will keep their hearts from breaking. So this was put out by Metro Goldwing, and Mark Rydell produced this behind him, and it also stars. It has music by James Newton Howard, and evidently the soundtrack is available on Warner Brothers Records. So, from 1991, that's The Man in the Moon. Very young Jason London, definitely. All right. So this is a document called The Definitive Document of the Dead, a film by Roy Frumkes. It's from Synapse Films, and I haven't even opened this yet. As you can see, the plastic is still on it. It's called that. Roy Funkie's celebration of horror director George A. Romero gets re-edited, updated, and remastered. The Definitive Document of the Dead is an all-new version of the classic making of project based on the 1978's Dawn of the Dead. George A. Romero, director of the original Night of the Living Dead, is one of the horror genre's most celebrated filmmakers. Roy Frumkes, amazing 1978 documentary, Document of the Dead, was an initiate look at Romero's creative process with an outstanding collection of interviews, effects, demonstrations, courtesy of makeup artist Tom Savini, and behind-the-scenes footage from the classic horror film Dawn of the Dead. This new 2012 version of the award-winning documentary contains all new exclusive material, including additional interviews with Romero's family and friends, candid on-set footage from Two Evil Eyes, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, and many more surprises. The Definitive Document of the Dead is a loving portrait of a horror legend and a must-see for any hardcore horror fan. So, I'm hoping to eventually watch this down the road. I picked it up, I collected it, I have it. So this is also from Lomira Video. It has the insert in here for the deep end. It has the disc for the deep end, and it actually has Lomira Video and General Store, which has the address of the place, 522 Milwaukee Street. So this film called The Deep End, and that's not the original leaflet for the film. It looks like he actually copied the film's thing, so it's very possible that someone might have ripped the original uh, cover for this DVD, and so he just replaced it with a copy. And the film is directed by Scott McKee and David Siegel. It was put out by Fox Searchlight Pictures. An I-5 picture, and it starred Tilda Swinton, Goran Visnajic, Jonathan Tucker, Raymond Berry, Josh Lucas, and Peter Bonat. So the deep end. Still waters run deep in this gripping suspense thriller about the extraordinary depths to which seemingly ordinary people will sink in the name of love. Tilda Swinton is magnificent. The New York Times says, as a housewife, Margaret Hall, a fiercely protective mother caught in a vortex of deception when it appears that her son may be guilty of murder. One desperate act leads to another, and soon she's being blackmailed by the mysterious Alec Spura, ER's Goran Visenjik. But what begins is a riveting cat and mouse game between them soon evolves into a haunting romance, immersed in the tradition of Hitchcock's best twists and turns. The Deep End holds its suspense to the very last drop, and that's from the Toronto Star. So this film was done in 2001, and I have seen this at least once. It was good. I mean, the performances were good. I'll have to revisit it soon. Um, I ended up actually getting like a bunch of home videos from a friend of mine, and that was one of them. Evidently, her uncle had owned Lomira Video, and here's another film from Lomira Video, I believe. Maybe. Yep. It's called The Debt. It looks like the thing was upside down. Okay, so The Debt has Helen Mirren, Sam Worthington, Jessica Chastain, and Tom Wilkinson. Um, and it is directed by John Madden. Academy Award winner Helen Mirren and two-time Academy Award nominee Tom Wilkinson star in The Debt, a pulse-pounding and politically charged suspense thriller. Karen Durbin from Ellie. In 1966, three Mossad agents were assigned to track down a feared Nazi war criminal hiding in East Berlin. A mission accomplished at great risk and personal cost, or was it? 30 years later, the suspense builds as shocking news and surprising revelations compel retired team member Rachel Singer, played by Mirren, to take matters into her own hands. Co-starring Sam Worthington, Jessica Chastain, and Ciaran Hinds, it's the film critics call an intelligent thriller with superb performances from Claudia Puig, USA Today. So, Focus Features and Miramax working with Universal put out this film. It's called The Debt. I have not watched that film, but I do plan on watching it. This is another full moon feature that I have not. Well, another. I haven't mentioned any yet, but this is the first that I've come across. The Dead Want Women, featuring Eric Roberts. Witness unspeakable acts of total depravity. So this was produced and directed by Charles Band with Full Moon Features. The film stars Jessica Morris, Ariana Madix, Jean Louise O'Sullivan, Circus Zalewski, Robert Zakar, Nihilist Gello, and Eric Roberts. So, the Roaring Twenties end in a scream when the first talking movie debuts. The world's biggest female silent movie star, Rose Pettigrew, goes on a killing spree when she loses her studio contract, murdering her friends and co-stars. Tubby Fitzgerald, the comedian, Eric Burke, the horror icon, and Sonny Barnes, played by Eric Roberts, the cowboy, before taking her own life. Rose's mansion has stood empty for decades, but when two realtors, Reese, played by Jessica Morris, and Danny, played by Ariana Maddox, finally buy the house to remodel and sell it, they discover that there are more than skeletons in the closet. Haunted by the ghosts of a time long ago, the girls quickly find that they have been cast in a nightmare that will never end. Get ready for your close up, and it's lights, camera, die. So there we have it. The Dead Want Women. This actually sounds like it could be fun, actually. Even though supposedly it's wrong that Charles Band actually comes from money. So normally I'm not a Blu-ray fan. I'm not. But I ended up picking up the Cat of Nine Tails, Deep Red, and Inferno in a 3 disc Blu-ray set from Blue Underground. So these are Dario Argento films. So I'm going to read off the back just a little bit. From 1971, The Cat of Nine Tails. When a simple robbery at a research institute leads to a series of brutal murders, a blind puzzle maker and a tenacious reporter begin their own investigation of the crimes. With 9 different clues to follow, they uncover a shocking web of twisted genetics and dark sexual secrets that will finally lead them to a shattering climax of violence and suspense. Um, Deep Red, I believe also known as the Hatchet Murders, is about an English jazz pianist living in Rome, witnesses the brutal hatchet murder of a renowned psychic and is quickly drawn into the savage crime. With the help of a tenacious female reporter, the pair track a twisted trail of deranged clues and relentless violence towards a shocking climax that has ripped screams from the throats of audiences for more than 35 years. And that film was filmed in 1975. Um, and then, of course, the third film on this set is Inferno from 1980. A young woman stumbles upon a mysterious diary that reveals the secrets of the three mothers. So this is one of the three mothers' films, and unleashes a nightmare world of demonic evil. As the unstoppable horror spreads from Rome to New York City, this unholy trinity must be stopped before the world is submerged in the blood of the innocent. So, there we have it, the Dario Argento collection. Although that's not the entire Dario Argento collection. So, this one, I believe, is actually, it's got a digital copy. Okay. So, this one is directed by Paul Andrew Williams. Um, it is produced by Isle of Man Films and the UK Film Council, but it was put out by Sony Pictures with Screen Yorkshire. So it evidently was a UK Film Council lottery funded film. Uh, um, also works with Steel Mills production. It's called The Cottage. And it says unrated on here. I used to see this in Blockbuster for a little bit, but anyways, forced into hiding uh, after their kidnapping plan goes awry, two rival siblings, David, played by Andy Serkis, from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and Peter Reese Shearsmith from Shaun of the Dead, find themselves fighting for their sanity while they hole up in a secluded country cottage. Weighed down by a hostage who refuses to stay quiet or tied down, they are soon held captive by their own victim. But everyone's problems go from bad to worse when they come face to face with their psychotic axe wielding neighbor. So this looks really cool. I love films from the UK for the simple fact that for some reason they always speak so eloquently, even though some of them talk like they've got their nose turned up. But anyways, I swear this one's named after me, but it's really not me. This is a trilogy of video mixes, which video mixes are, in fact, um, weird clips, music, and imagery that are just so weird. And this is by the same people who did the Retardathon trilogy as well. This is called the Crazy Dave trilogy, and this is so out of print. It probably had a limited edition of. It's got Crazy Dave Tape 1, Crazy Dave Tape 2, and Crazy Dave Tape 3. I'm assuming that all of these were on VHS at one point in time. And then they eventually put it on a limited edition DVD trilogy. And of course, they're not printed, but they are printed out. Like someone actually did these themselves. You know what I mean? So yeah. Um, as you can see, some of those. The Crazy Dave trilogy. Just going to show you the backs and the front. So, yeah. I started to watch these. I have not entirely watched them. I want to. I'm not sure whether I'll be sickened or not, but I hear some crazy things about this trilogy. So, this is directed by Enzo G. Castellari. It is part of the Salvation Group and Redemption Collection from Ryko Distribution. And it's called Cold Eyes of Fear. And Glorious Bastards was one of this director's films, and it is supposedly a stylish and extravagant Italian giallo thriller set in swinging 60s London. This movie brings you a dark and decadent world of corrupt cops, vengeful ex-cons, threats, betrayal, fist fights, and feisty femme fatales. Motivated by revenge, an ex-con abducts the son of the judge, who put him behind bars. The plot thickens as a deeper betrayal is revealed, leading the story to erotic S&M scenes with scantily clad women and violent trysts in darkened, atmospheric nightclub settings. Cold Eyes of Fear is a most memorable movie of psychedelic effects, intriguing plot twists, striking shots, and a stunning jazz score. So, the film stars Giovanni Ralli, Frank Wolf, Fernando Rey, Julian Mateos, Karen Schubert, Leonardo Scavino, Franco Marletta, and Gianni Garco. So, there we have it, Cold Eyes of Fear. I have not watched this yet, but I do plan to. So this was a film that was forever on Sub Rosa Cinema's top films they were selling for a while. And this was a Polonio Brothers film. It's called Channel 13. And it came with a It came with a film poster originally, but I put that in a box. So eventually I'll show that to everyone. So Channel 13 is a horror anthology film, harken back to the mid 70s and 80s, inspired by Amicus Productions and Creepshow. This Polonio Brothers film was shot in 1987 and was never finished. Lost for nearly 30 years, painstakingly reconstructed from the original elements, it is available now in all of its SOV glory. Witness three tales told by a hooded monk on the titular Channel 13. A video game geek returns from some arcade fun to watch movies on TV and can only get reception on 13. He views tales of decadence and horror containing killer scarecrows, monster birds, and cannibal spaghetti farm owners. This slice of SOV history has to be seen to be believed. Watch if you dare. So definitely sounded up my alley. I have not watched it as of yet. So here is Camp Blood 4, which is also produced by David Sterling. There's the cover. And this is also signed by him. This is when he started signing things. Six college friends travel out of town to a rock concert. Traveling out of town to a rock concert, decide to stop off at Camp Black Tree for a night of partying. However, their weekend of fun turns to utter terror as someone stalking the woods is slicing and dicing his way to the beautiful young Raven, played by Skylar Craig. Is it the notorious Camp Blood Killer or someone far more sinister? From cult director Dustin Ferguson, Silent Night, Bloody Night 2, and the Amityville Legacy, and featuring a cameo appearance from YouTube sensation Sean C. Phillips with a rocking theme song from heavy metal gods Dragon's Claw. This is one trip to Camp Blood you won't soon forget. So, again, working with 42nd Street Films, Camp Blood 4. You have Christopher Christensen, Kyle Slack, Jenny Caroline, Stephen Eads, Alicia Rockefeller, Michael Booton, Doug Mill, and of course Sean C. Phillips. The special effects was by Wetworks SFX. The theme song by Dragon's Claw. So yeah, that is Camp Blood 4, and this is Camp Blood 6. This was directed by Ted Moring. There's the cover of the film. This says, Camp Blood 666, creepy clowns bring evil all around. The Camp Blood killer clown returns from hell itself to stalk the woods around Camp Blood, looking for fresh victims to disembowel with his trusty machete. People have begun to go missing once again in the woods. Betsy goes looking for her missing brother, Ari, who ran away from home to join a satanic clown cult and was last seen in the woods around Camp Blood. The local police don't want to get involved, leaving just her and her boyfriend, Tom, to venture into the deadly woods by themselves. Will they find her missing brother, or even survive long enough to find out his fate? And does the satanic clown cult have anything to do with the reappearance of the killer clown? Find out for yourself in Camp Blood 666. Again, Sterling Entertainment produced this. And the film stars Tina Krause, George Stover, Shoshana Ruth Green, Quentin J. Alexander, Ian Lillis, and Edward X. Young with music by Ghost. So there we have it. Camp Blood 666. Here's another Camp Blood called Ghost of Camp Blood, starring Scream Queen Alyssa Dowling, and this is also produced by Sterling Entertainment. Um, there we have it, Ghost of Camp Blood. I love these covers. Um, from the producers of Witchcrafts and Hell's Highway comes a new spin-off, Ghost of Camp Blood. Infamous Blackwood Forest is still haunted by the numerous deaths at the hands of a clown mass killer, but now it is haunted by something else. The vengeful spirit of the recently deceased Camp Blood killer is out for revenge from beyond the grave, and down and out paranormal talk show host and his faithful assistants attempt to contact the killer with deadly results. The Ghost of Camp Blood takes the series in a whole new terrifying direction. How can you kill something that's already dead? So the film stars Steve Diaspora, Jamie Morgan, Mariah Joyce, Nicholas Olson, Christopher Beacom, Alyssa Dowling, and of course, music is by Ghost, and this film is directed by Mark Polonia. There you go. Once you have it, and here's a look at the back cover. So yeah, I think he signed it again too. Yep. So next I have Volume 1 of Concept Media Films. Now, Concept Media Films is put together by Sean Burkett and Ryan Stacy, except it's no longer just them anymore. They have become a syndicate of people and directors and actors alike. There are several directors that are with them now. So the films that are here, I wanted to catch up with everything that they had. So in this particular collection, and I'll show you the front and the back, but it says on this particular volume, Midsummer Nightmare, The Sleeping Soul, Bludgeon, A Shameless Revenge, Watch This, and Midsummer Nightmares 2 are all in this collection. And now I've watched at least 4 of these. I still have to go back and rewatch the rest of them. And they are known for the Don't Go Fuck in the Woods film. It had controversy with it because of its title. So the next film that I want to talk about is produced, I believe it's produced by Ron Fitzgerald, but it's basically been Ron Fitzgerald's baby to do with as he pleased. Um, Ron Fitzgerald is a horror film guy who kind of dresses up like a magician of sorts, kind of like has his own persona that he goes about and wears, and he's a master illusionist in this dark realm film, and he signed it, saying to Dave, "Enjoy all the." Stickville, Stuckville. Trying to see, but he definitely signed it for me, and that was cool. This is before it was picked up, actually, by someone different, and Ron Fitzgerald, Vincent Bianchio, and Kaylee Williams star in this particular film, and it's kind of shot on video kind of a film. Um, so then, of course, I've got an animated film called The Condor, which I started to watch. It stars the voice of Wilmer uh, Valderrama. Um, Tony is from Stan Lee. So this animated, it's a limited. It's got a limited collection, a limited edition comic book inside. And I made sure when I found this that it has the comic book on the inside. Uh, for some reason, I wanted to make sure that I got these. But yep, there's the limited edition comic book that's inside of the Condor. And there were a couple of animations that Stan Lee produced that are out there, and this was one of them. Tony Valdez, voiced by Wilmer Valderrama, is a college dropout who turned his back on his family's robotics corporation to become a champion skateboarder. But when his parents are murdered and Tony's legs are destroyed in a brutal beating, he uses his father's experimental nanobot technology to walk again. Now, as the superhuman skater known as the Condor, Tony must reconcile a crime-fighting conscience with this rage for vengeance. What is the missing component to his parents' DNA regeneration formula? Why is their sinister Vaitech partner creating a race of adrenaline-crazed killers? And who is the depraved supervillain sworn to destroy Condor? Maria Conchita Alonso co-stars as the voice of Mrs. Valdez in this all-new superhero sensation written by Mary Wolfman, co-creator of Teen Titans and Blade, from an explosive story by executive producer and comic book legend Stan Lee. So there we have it, The Condor. So here I have two I mentioned Bloody Island in another video compilation, and these are two other films that are by director Joseph Kelly. This is the short film that was filmed at the Clown Motel, and it is the Kickstarter edition. And I also got this film, Community Service the Movie, which I believe has something to do with Bloody Island as well. And in fact, you're talking about something that's in the within the world of each other. So, Joseph Kelly did sign these, so that is at least a cool thing. But the back of this short film says a lost group ends up stranded in the middle of nowhere and decides to seek refuge in the middle of in a deserted clown motel. Little do they know the place is cursed, and they unwittingly unleash the evil clown spirits. A Shadow in the Dark Productions presents a film by Joseph Kelly, Robert Witchman, and David Bailey. Performed by Kelly, Love, Rachel, McVeigh, Emanuela Osmont, and yeah, so I'm glad I have this particular short film to uh, piece together how they actually came up with the film. And this on the back of the community service, the movie, and actually this has three. If you can see, it's got three laurels. Um, Evidently, it's very blurred, but community service, the movie. Um, on the back, it says Billy Fowles wants his revenge. Community service is about a young boy, Billy, who had a rough childhood and ends up being committed to a psychiatric center. Roughly 20 years later, Billy discovers that one of his old childhood tormentors is now in charge of running a community service program. When Billy escapes from the institution, eight troubled teens are in for more than just a weekend of community service. So, uh, Joe Kelly film in association with Rusty Nail Productions present a film by Joseph Kelly and Robert Richmond. So yeah, this is community service, the movie, connected to Clown Motel, and the Clown Motel movie that I showed you in one of my recently picked up film videos as well. So, yeah, there we have those particular films. Um, and let me start to put some of these away as I go. It's better that I just start putting some of these away. Um, I love clowns. I have to say. So I love picking up clown films. I love any kind of horror films, to be honest. Ugh. But I've had a lot of fun hunting down many of these films and keeping up with some of these independent films as they come out, and some of them are sold through Kickstarter campaigns and so on and so forth. And I just love being part of it all, or try to be. And it's just amazing how many films I've been able to be part of. So, okay. So, moving on to this is the first of the Die Hard films. Of course, many people believe that this particular film, directed by John Tiernan, which stars Bruce Willis, Alan Rickman, Alexander Godunov, and Bonnie Bedella. Um, some people believe that this is a God's to Honest Christmas movie because it was filmed on Christmas Eve. Well, it wasn't filmed on Christmas Eve, but it was filmed around Christmas Eve, and the guy who played in Family Matters played in here. So, in the high-rise, high-stakes action thriller that raised the bar for the genre, superstar Bruce Willis rocks as New York City detective John McClane, who's in Los Angeles to spend the holidays with his estranged wife Holly, played by Bonnie Bedelia. But while McClane waits for Holly's office party to end, terrorists take control of the building as their sinister leader, Hans Gruber, played by Alan Rickman, and his savage henchman, Alexander Godunov, rounds up hostages. McClane gets ready to blast a few rounds of his own and launch a one-man war as only McClane can. And I've seen this movie almost every year, and I love every minute of it. It is just a phenomenal action film. It's kind of a coming of age action film that you cannot be without. At least the original Die Hard is. So yeah, there we have it. Love it. Buy it if you don't have it. Of course, I have the 30th anniversary edition of Jaws on DVD. This is what it isn't what it originally came. This is what it originally came in, and it came with this book. It was a commemorative photo journal of the film, and it's a movie that almost didn't happen. It's based on a Peter Benchley film, just like Creature, and it is the movie that everyone goes to if they produced. This was Steven Spielberg's breakout film. So it stars Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss, and the film is called Jaws. Um, this special 25th anniversary collector's edition. Oh, it says 25th on here. Is digitally mastered and contains exclusive footage. It says 25th, and yet it says the 30th on here. Okay. Um, is digitally mastered and contains exclusive footage, interviews, and behind the scenes material. Steven Spielberg directed this classic film that became one of the most enduring action suspense films of all time. Jaws was an instant blockbuster, a phenomenon, and today it is still amongst the highest grossing films in motion picture history. Acclaimed by critics and audiences alike, rediscovered the timeless film that continues to make entire generations afraid to go in the water. So, this is the grandfather of all shark films to me. And it is a classic, and it will always be a classic to me. This is the third film in a trilogy called Badasses on the Bayou. Now, I have not watched the first two, but they star Danny Trejo and Danny Glover. Badasses on the Bayou. This particular one is directed by Craig Moss. It reunites the dynamic duo of Frank Vega, Danny Trejo, and Bernie Pope, Danny Glover, as they travel to Louisiana to attend the wedding of their dear friend Carmen Gutierrez, played by Lonnie Love, who what was pictured as a wedding weekend. Escape to the south turns violently ugly as madness and mayhem ensue, pressing our senior heroes to once again survive justice or serve justice. So I'll be very curious about watching this once I find where I stuck my copies of the first two so that I can watch them back to back. So I love anything to do with Paul Naschy. If you know anything about Paul Naschy, he's a classic actor from the '70s. That he was in a bunch of werewolf films, and this particular one, is called Tomb of the Werewolf. It is directed by Fred Olen Ray, and it also stars Jay Richardson, Michelle Bauer, Stephanie Bentley, Kennedy Johnson, Beverly Lynn, J.C. Andrews, Leyland J., Frankie C. Cullen, and says on the back here, Unleash the Dead. An ancient horror comes alive in the frightening tale of revenge and the wrath of the bloodiest legend. With Tony, a young producer on a failing mystery reality show, goes looking for something to give his series an edge. He thinks he's in luck when he meets Mr. Demitsky. Demitsky is the sole proprietor of an abandoned European castle that is rumored to house the treasure and remains of a bloodthirsty Count Vladimir. But the terror in the castle is not dead, and the Count is determined to exact his revenge. All he needs is the perfect human sacrifice. So there we go, Tomb of the Werewolf. I have not seen that film yet, but I plan to. So Crystal Hunt is a Donnie Yen film. This is also from Banzai DVD, which is a Japanese or Chinese actually it's a Hong Kong um, action film from director Pak Lam Chu. Was filmed in Thailand, using much of the same cast and crew as the contemporary Cheetah on Fire. Carrie Ng stars as Lisa Lee, who gathers an expedition to seek out the legendary Gold Crystal God, which, according to the local mythology, has the power to heal her deathly sick father. Naturally, she um, isn't the only one after the valuable treasure, and her rivals soon kidnap the professor who is guiding her. Lisa presses on regardless, along with the professor's daughter, Police Superintendent Wu, played by Sibel Hu, and former police officer Chai Liang, played by Donnie Yen, who acts as their tour guide. Non-stop action and gunplay lead up to a thrilling climactic battle in a cavern filled with deadly traps. The expected visual references to the Indiana Jones series and various 70s drive-in features are enlivened by spirited performances and exuberant pacing, making this an above-average low-budget adventure. Gordon Lau co-stars with Ken Lo, Lung Kar Yan, and Michael Woods. So, there we have it. It's called Crystal Hunt. And it says on here English new versus language. Kung Fu Masters series. A special uncut full screen edition. So, yep. I have not seen this film, but I probably will. So, the Nature Run Amok collection from Apprehensive Films from afcinema.net at one point in time brought to us something called Calamity of Snakes, which was in the tradition of the Kingdom of the Spiders and Centipede horror. One of the most insane films in the Nature Run Amok subgenre of horror. As in many of the Asian horror films, the reptile action is out of control. Thousands of real snakes everywhere, slithering down hotel hallways and attacking women in wheelchairs. When a construction crew kills a large group of snakes while building a hotel, an ancient snake curse is cast on the building and all hell breaks loose. Keep an eye out for the insane Kung Fu Snake Battle from 1982, directed by William Chang. On here is a bonus short film called Guligula. It's a comical look at the Walking Dead genre, and it was shot on 16mm film, directed by George Benny. There we go with Calamity of Snakes. I have not seen the film, but it sounds insane. Now, this film I did see, and this film I did like. This is called Barbizon, also known as Bluebeard. It is directed by Jacques Avila. Oh, wait. It's directed by Amy. It's actually not directed by Jacques Avila. It's directed by Amy. Bluebeard. Let me see. Blue Beard. Oh, ah, and this was a film from 2012. Um, Amy Hesketh. Amy Hesketh, who is also known for some other films. Let me make sure. The film stars Jack Avila, but Amy Hesketh is um, she did Surunaku Koi before this, and then after this she did a film on Le Marquis de la Croix, who is also known as the Marquis de Sade. And then after that, she did Olalia, Olala in 2015. Looks like she's ultimately going to be. Looks like she was in a short film called Beard Bath. She is the director of something called Pygmalion and Rucker the Trucker in 2020. So, but anyways, Bluebeard Barbazol loves women. He just can't stop killing them. Based on the fairy tale La Barbe Bleue from 1697, written by Charles Perrault, about a man with a blue beard who kills his wives. Barbazol, played by Jacques Avila, meets vulnerable Soledad, played by Mila Joya, an aspiring model with a dependent sister. After a brief courtship, he proposes marriage and whisks her away to his far-off plantation. Before departing on a business trip, Barbazal gives Soledad the keys to the house with the condition that she not enter his private room. Overcome by curiosity, she enters the forbidden room and discovers that many have come before her, but none have survived. So here we have Bluebeard. So this was put out by Vermeer Works again, where you can find the film. It's at VermeerWorks.com, and I really like this. And I know that Jacques Avila and Amy Hesketh and some of the others, they all have interests in the art form of bondage. So they use that in their storyline. I think what they do is they push it to the edge and make it something that's more artistic and beautiful. And something, if you're into it, it has more of an erotic feel to it. So, in any case, moving on to This is a production by Richard Chandler called Witch Hunt. The thing about Richard Chandler is he likes to throw a lot of f bombs in his films, and I'm not sure if having more of those than more swears in the language than English is necessarily the right way to go, the right way to turn on people to watching. But I do like the character that he created in here, and so on and so forth. So one of the darkest films to come out of New England, with corrupt cops, satanic cults, Bosnian witch hunters, sex, and violence, a true soul stealing tale of beauty and death, with the perfect blend of blood, violence, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I give Rick Chandler's Witch Hunt two flaming devil horns straight up to the fucking sky. George Fraser of the Bloodshed. A nasty little tale that's knee deep in socio-political subtext. Thomas Gleba of Horror Hound. Richard Chandler is quickly rising among the ranks as one of the most prominent names in independent film. Chris Savage from Horror Movies, California. So, to me, Richard Chandler is the director of Boston Film Family, which is his production company. And this isn't his only film, um, but and it is definitely not my introduction into his features. But this is one of the films that it took a while for him to get it to me. So he is slow to send things out. But I love him as a director. He's always been nice to me whenever I've tried to talk to him, and vice versa. So even though I may not entirely like the swearing in his films, so this has Lindsay Wagner and Randy Quaid who act together in here. It's called Evil in Clear River. One mother's struggle against the spread of hatred. And the film is directed by William Schmidt. Put out by Phoenix Entertainment, Hearst Entertainment as well as Eve Digital being the distributor. So here I have high school teacher and Clear River Mayor Peter Mayor Peter Subak is a popular instructor played by Randy Quaid, pillar of the community, but his integrity comes under fire when Kate McKinnon, played by Lindsay Wagner, the mother of one of his students, discovers he is teaching blatant racism. Determined to challenge his teachings, McKinnon undertakes a campaign to have him removed from the school, but Suvak's power as a member of the government is overwhelming, and he is not giving up without a fight. As the controversy escalates, the government steps in, and ultimately Suvak must account for his actions in a controversial trial in a court of law. So this actually sounds like it might actually be interesting as far as racism goes. Um, so I'm looking forward to watching that. I have not watched that as of yet. The next one is another H.P. Lovecraft based film called Cool Air, and this particular one was directed by Albert Pyun of the Nemesis films. Um, Broken Hill Entertainment, Kip Downing, and Kernan Pictures. Um, so, struggling screenwriter Charlie Baxter sets out to write his long blocked great American screenplay when he suffers a heart attack and his mysterious upstairs neighbor, Dr. Schockner, comes to his rescue. The doctor persuades Baxter to stay until he recovers fully and introduces him to a nightmarish world of insane experiments and murder. Baxter knows something must be done to stop the evil that resides in the room at the top of the stairs. So this was actually put out by Lionsgate. Um, and at the time, Lionsgate might not have actually been owned by Disney as of yet. It might have been, though. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching this particular copy. So um, I have enjoyed his films before, even though he has somewhat ripped off Terminator and some other films in some way, shape, or form. So here are a couple of films that were directed by um, Chris Sieber. Chris Sieber is an independent director, and I started to try to um, get copies of all of his films. Some of them I bought, like this one. I believe I bought this particular one, Deathbone, Third Blood Part 7. It's a mixture of Rambo and like Lord of the Rings and World of Warcraft put together. So, or Dungeons and Dragons, so to speak, with vampires or whatnot. Prepare to get boned. And this other one is called Evil Knight. So this was based on the classic 1992 a shot on VHS horror film that was directed by Todd Jason Cook. This remake of Evil Knight takes a decidedly campy turn by Chris Sieber and Warlock Home Video. Jimmy Fisher, played by Josh Swar, um, is the typical nerd who finds himself being the butt of a prank perpetrated by a group of college kids. One of the pranksters, Jennifer Meredith Host, played by Meredith Host, is the girl of Jimmy's dreams, and when he finds out she was a part of his humiliation, he sets out on a night of cookie carnal killing with the help of an experimental telekinetic potion he whips up, of course. Witness the laugh out loud terror as Jimmy goes from harmless geek to full on revenge of the nerd for real. So this was filmed in 2014 under Warlock Pictures, and I have a copy of it. Um, I have not watched it, but it definitely, since it's directed by Chris Sieber, it might actually be good. A good remake. I actually watched this one. I wasn't a fan of this one as much as I was Geek Wars, which I also do have. But um, here is what this one is all about. Part Conan, part Beastmaster, part Deathstalker, all barbarian. This is the epic tale of Deathbone, friends. When an elven village is overtaken by goblin warlord Von Druk and one of their kinswomen, Marge is taken captive. A young elf girl named Heather Reel must seek out the one they call Deathbone and ask for his help to vanquish the evil. Deathbone, along with his ragtag group of adventurers, decides to take on this quest and bring about peace to their home, Mucklark, once again. Filled to the brim with witty and over the top dialogue and comedy, Deathbone is foaming with action and blood dripping with erotic adventure, and sure to make any warrior queen wet with excitement. Get your pals together, strike up a pint of mead, and chow down on a dragon's leg. For you are about to witness the most epic low budget fantasy action film you have ever seen. In fact, before Warlock Home Video, he had a company called Low Budget Pictures, which has is of films, earlier films that he first started with, and then he created this collection of films on Warlock Pictures, which was quite a hit back in the day. But I've heard stories. I have to say, I have heard stories, negative and positive. Now, this is another mixtape, but I was not able to get a copy of the first one. I wish I had, and it's Extreme Underground Cinema, and this was put out by um, Toxic Video. It's called Cunt Buck Boulevard, Cunt Buck Corp Productions. Welcome back, cunt fuckers. We continue our journey through the Cuntbuck Boulevard and find ourselves right in front of the volcano, which is about to erupt because this mixtape makes your psychiatrics cunt squirt like a volcano, even more than its prequel. So, a video mixtape. This was number 11 out of 50. So 50 of these were made. So here is another film that was directed by Albert Pyun, and it stars Tom Sizemore, Nas, and Steven Seagal. It's called Ticker. I have not watched it yet, but the title line is "When the countdown hits 0, you're dead." And it was put out by FilmWorks and Artisan Entertainment, or Artisan DVD, when a mad bomber, played by Dennis Hopper, descends on San Francisco. It's up to two men to uncover his plot and find the massive bomb hidden somewhere in the city. Steven Seagal stars as the Zen leader of the bomb squad, and Tom Sizemore is a vice cop out for vengeance, featuring special appearance by pop sensation Chili. So, Artisan Entertainment and New Image, along with FilmWorks and Kings Road Entertainment. So, this must be before he started going with Kernan Pictures, which is his love's production company. So I have not seen that film yet. Maybe I have, but I would like to watch it sometime soon. So the Violence movie is a collection of two fan films of the Friday the 13th movie. And this is, I believe, both of them back to back. So it includes both the Violence movie and the Violence movie number 2. This is a special edition. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, so shot on VHS back in 1988 with additional footage added in 2003, the teenage brothers Eric Wilkinson, who went on to produce the cult hit Jerome Bixby's The Man from Earth, and David Wilkinson, the Violence movie, was passed around on bootleg VHS tapes before the term viral ever existed. 30 years later, the homage to slasher movies of the era has been remastered, well, sort of, and re edited by the brothers themselves and rescored by none other than the legendary Friday the 13th composer Harry Manfredini for all to enjoy. So, the violence movie is when a deranged killer, David Wilson, Jersey Girl, and the violence movie 2, Generation X Live, escapes from prison. He inexplicably invades the home of Joey Hammond, played by Joseph Shaughnessy. The Violence Movie 2, Generation X Live, who must fight for his life in order to stay alive. It is 14 minutes. The Violence Movie, number 2. Was it real or was it a dream? For some unexplained reason, Joey Hammond, played by Joseph Shaughnessy, the Violence Movie, Generation X Live, returns in this action-packed sequel to the Violence Movie. This time, the crazed serial killer is relentless in his pursuit of the innocent Joey, with 2 times the action, 2 times the gore, 2 times the body count, and 2 times the fun. It's this sequel in which you keep asking yourself why. 19 minutes long. So, I'm hoping to eventually watch these. I am a fan of Friday the 13th fan films. They are a universe outside of the universe. And I like to see what happens from time to time within the genre of that particular uh, thing. Now, this isn't my first copy of this particular film, but I like Camp Motion Pictures' a cover of Rock and Roll Frankenstein, and it was directed by Brian O'Hara, and DVD Talk called it an instant exploitation classic. Film Threat called it a classic piece of B-movie entertainment, the official selection of over 20 international film festivals, and winner of the Melbourne Underground Film Festival's most gratuitous violence award. Brian O'Hara's 1999 horror comedy Rock and Roll Frankenstein is now available to home entertainment for the first time in its native 16 by 9 aspect ratio. After music agent Bernie Stein loses his last act, he decides the only way to a better life is through the grave, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame graveyard that is. Together with a burned out roadie and a mad scientist, the Motley Crue set out to build the perfect rock and roll superstar from the remains of dead rockers, assembling parts from Elvis, Hendrix, Sid Vicious, and some others. Soon enough, the monster is alive, but things go bad when Liberace's love tool mistakenly ends up in the mix. Equipped with the head of Elvis and the junk of Lee, a schizo relationship develops between the monster and his privates. Craig Guggenheim, Jason Spence, Barry Faderman, and Hiram Jacob Segura all star in this film. So, yeah, definitely. I did watch this once. I guess I wouldn't mind watching it again. But seriously, um, I know this particular film of Frank Sinatra's is in a collection, but I used to have this on VHS, and this is the only serious black and white film that I know of that has something to do with the drug that you with heroin. To be honest, this is The Man with the Golden Arm, and it is the 2 disc special edition version of it. The Man with the Golden Arm is director Otto Preminger's classic controversial film starring Frank Sinatra as addict Frankie Machine. Based on an award-winning novel penned by Nelson Algren, this hard-hitting look at one man's descent into the hell of uh, 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 of drug addiction caused quite a stir when released 50 years ago. Preminger, who had already caused a commotion with the ratings board over his earlier release, The Moon is Blue, tackled Elgren's novel head on and spared no expense at showing the horrifying effects that drugs can have on a man. Released without the seal of approval of the board, the film went on to become one of the biggest money makers of the year. It also became Sinatra's favorite film role. In the title role, Sinatra continued his winning acting ways that got started with From Here to Eternity, for which he won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. His portrayal of Machine earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. Also in the cast are Eleanor Parker, Kim Novak, and Darren McGavin. So, this is my favorite Frank Sinatra film. If I had to choose, this is my favorite film of his as well. Um, Now here we go with another film from working with Eclipse Films and Extreme Entertainment, Camp Motion Pictures, all involved with this Todd Sheets film. Another film called Catacombs. This movie is in your face for the full 90 minutes. Director Todd Sheets beats the viewers over the head mercilessly with one grotesque image after another. There is a disembowelment by demon penis impalement that I guarantee will be one of the sickest things you will ever lay your eyes on. Written by B. I Dependent. Anyone who's a fan of underground occult splatter will freak for this. Features cool camera work, lots of over-the-top gore, and a heavy metal soundtrack. Written by MTV. So, Dr. West has assembled a group of horror fans to undergo the ultimate experiment in fear at the Catacombs Haunted House attraction. Only no one is ready for the true terror that unfolds when a ruthless butcher begins his reign of bloodthirsty slaughter. Locked in for the night, there is no escape from the vicious evil unleashed in the catacombs. Who will survive the blood-drenched night of madness? Catacomb delivers the goods and atmosphere for a wild fear fest. You won't soon be forgetting. This movie is not for the wimps. Written by 3 Entertainment. This is the uncut version, running time of 90 minutes, and it's not for children. The film stars Abe Dyer, Rico Love, Phil Wymore, Antoine Steele, Jen Davis, Ari Bevel, Rachel Matthews, Ruth Dyer, Chris Lerbecki, and Mike Gordon as the Face. So, there's what the film in fact looks like. I don't know if you can see any of the scenes on the back, but something evil waits in the darkness. So that concludes one whole big box, one of these egg boxes that I'll bring this up here to show you. Yep. That's one of the boxes that I just got done with, telling you what's in it. And I have many more boxes and shelves to go. So that's it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And stay tuned for more exciting video collections in the future. Hopefully you enjoy everything that I talk about. And I look forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
You were good, kid, real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best, see?